Me and Matthias are aspiring... Oof. Jesus.
Nice.
Did you hear my brain fry? Hello, and welcome to Do the Write Thing, your weekly writing prompt podcast. I'm Jarvis.
And I'm Matthias.
Me and Matthias are aspiring writers, which means that we talk about writing a whole lot, but we never actually do it.
Right, so we started doing a challenge. Every week, we take 30 minutes to write a story that has to include 3 of 4 randomly generated words.
And then we come on the podcast, we talk about them, and then we also talk about stories submitted by you listeners.
We're simply here to help you do the right thing.
A Doof Media production. Did y'all like that mix-up?
I didn't even know you were going to do that. You just went.
Me neither. It was instinct.
I like... So we cut this, obviously, but Jarvis said originally we're aspiraling?
It was aspiraling.
Aspiring writers.
Yeah.
And it just occurred to me, we should just say we're spiraling writers, because we're constantly, getting worse.
We are getting worse, and we're also getting more stressed out.
No, not worse in writing. I just mean,
as people.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
We're just describing that college life. We're fine.
Yeah, completely fine. That's why we both go to therapy.
Anyway, this is a very special episode.
Super special. This episode
is the very first
Doof the Write Thing episode.
Wow, we're so great at finishing each other's sentences.
I know. It's almost like we're married or something.
Okay.
The joke being we're not.
Yeah, no, we eloped and we had a midnight wedding.
Yeah,
in Vegas.
A midnight rendezvous.
Okay. Anyway, so this is a wonderful Do the Right Thing episode.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of our normal, Jarvis and I reading each other's stories, we are going to read the stories by the 3 winners of the Do the Right Thing contest.
And then,
the very first one.
And then we will talk about them in detail, giving them all the positive that we saw, all the negative, and all the constructive criticism, and then we're going to go on to the submitted stories for this week.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a little bit different. You won't get so much about us being off in our own worlds, but it should still be fun.
Yeah, you're not going to hear our stories that we definitely wrote this week.
100%.
I'm going to come clean. I put it off the whole week again,
yes.
And so I don't have a story yet, but I will do one before this episode comes out. That's 100%. A promise.
I know. I was writing, and I was like, all right, even though I'm not going to talk about my story on the podcast, I'm still going to write it, and I did most of it. Mm-hmm. But then I kind of realized I didn't use any of the words, and what I wrote was personal and really bad.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm not going to post this.
That's
but I guarantee to you, before we are done recording this episode, I will have my story up.
So during this episode, you'll be writing your story.
Yes. I will have my best friend.
Hey, would it count if we wrote our transcript for this episode, and that was our story for the week?
Yeah, because we will use all 4 of the words in that transcript.
So let's, just real quick, just in the spirit of maintaining some level of normalcy, what were the words this week? Even though we're not going to dive into our stories, and that the stories we will read were for the contest, which don't have any specific set of words. What were the words this week, Jarvis?
The words for this week were orange, befitting, request, and Synonymous.
Yeah, there was some really, really great stories this week. I can't wait to talk about the ones that we got and the ones that we rolled and we're going to be able to talk about. And it was really encouraging to see that even though this is not our normal episode, we still had a solid 50 comments. That's fantastic.
Yeah, we had a lot of stories this week, by far more than I thought we were getting, because this week is different, and also we had a lot of people commenting on other people's stories, which I thought was awesome. Great. So really, really good week all around.
I want to give a personal shout out to Kippos, because as part of the Doof Media Patreon, we've in the Discord we've kind of organized. I say we. It was very much patron organized. Not it was bottom up, not top down.
Yeah.
Habitica group. So Habitica is a habits tracking app. It's supposed to gamify getting better at your habits. Basically, whenever you succeed at what you were aiming to do, you press a button that gives you like experience points and gold or whatever.
Can you do that, but for like negative things?
Yes, and that was the thing. And you lose health points whenever you take a hit. And then you can actually organize into groups where you fight monsters and stuff like that, dealing damage when you do positive things and taking damage when you don't. And here's the thing. If you fail at your to-dos, the boss will hit everyone. So you really, really need to do your to-do list.
Yeah.
Or else everyone is disappointed in you.
Oh, but I just found a loophole. What if you lie?
Well, then just don't get off the app. Stop playing it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure you can go into the settings and give yourself whatever you want. It lets you do that if you want to.
But anyway, then that defeats the purpose.
Yes, exactly. So it's why are you just play a real video game?
Yeah.
Anyway, what you're able to do is that you're able to set challenges for the guild. Mm-hmm. And Kippos has spent some of her own money to do that for us, and actually set one of the challenges to be do the right thing, which I was so thankful for.
Yes,
it was really, really cool. And actually, I failed that challenge because it was due Friday.
So even us, the Right Thing boys, I guess we're taking damage. How much?
I don't know.
One heart?
Actually, I think I got lucky in that we had just defeated the boss, and so I didn't personally take damage. But I would have. So, but anyway, thank you so much, Kippos, for organizing that, and thank you to everyone who is doing that challenge, and that's why they're doing the right thing. That's super, super awesome.
Exactly. Nothing's better than gamifying your life.
Yeah, it's been really effective for me. But that's not what this podcast is about, so we'll move on. Yeah, I think that's all we have before we get into the stories. What you guys may know is that we had a tie for first place and a second place, but the third person... Anyway, so what we want to do for future Doof the Write Things when they're not tied is to do third place, second place, first place. Mm-hmm. So in this time, we're going to start with the second place, which is the third winner, with his Generous Gnat's untitled story. Mm-hmm. And then I think we'll just flip a coin to see which one of the first places we'll do first. But I'm really excited. These are so good. All of them are freaking awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the greatest thing is that you can see the improvement. I mean, every story is 5 pages now, and I know that none of them had that length at first, and just the challenge itself allowed them to really look at their piece objectively and really make it better. And I think the best thing is that all of them, you can tell, are by far so much better than they were at first, and that's just a testament to the process of actually going back and trying to edit your own work.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. So, I think without further ado, let's get into the first one by Generous Gnat.
All right.
Generous Gnat's story was for the Halloween challenge for spooky Halloween pumpkin and candy, I believe. I don't know what else to say before we get into it, but I'm looking forward to reading this. Okay. The characters in this are Australian. I'm going to not really attempt an Australian accent because I feel like I would falter and lower the quality of the story. So please pardon my half-committed Australian accents, which are not... I'm going to read them as they are in the text, and I'm not going to try to full-on do an accent. That's what I'm committing to. Anyway, enjoy the reading. Tef balanced with one foot on a ladder. 6 feet above the ground, he leaned out, right arm stretched to its limit, left leg splayed to the side to counterbalance his weight. Almost there. With his tongue poking from the corner of his mouth, he lifted himself up on his right foot. The extra height was enough, and with a gasp, he hung the dangling skeleton from the hook that was embedded into the wooden beam of the porch. With care, Tef lowered himself back to the ladder until he was planted with 2 feet. He wiped the sweat from his face and looked across to the far side of the porch and the menagerie of skeletal creatures that drifted in the stifling breeze. His lips parted, not quite a smile, as he watched a myriad of creatures smile at him, sun-bleached and bare in the wind. Sweat beaded off his upper lip and dripped salt into his mouth. Tef licked his lips before he wiped his face with his hand. With quick, sure steps, Tef descended the ladder and landed with a puff of dust on the desiccated ground. He walked backwards, facing his house, until he felt the wooden fence behind him. Something like pride swelled in his chest and lit his eyes with a haunted light. His mind filled with thoughts of his son and the joy little Matt had gotten from trick-or-treating. My boy always loved Halloween. He admired his handiwork until the sun parched his skin, turned it crimson in the midday light. The proud father was about to head inside when his reverie was interrupted. "Tef, mate, what on earth are you doing?" Tef's head dropped, and a sigh teetered on the edge of his lips before falling to the ground. He turned around and, piece by piece, constructed a mask of a smile and placed it on his face. "Mark, how's it going?" Tef asked the man standing at the edge of the road. Mark had his hands on his hips, and his beer gut bulged against the blue fabric of his singlet. "Mate," Mark huffed, out of breath from the walk across the street. "What have you done to your house?" "Just get into the Halloween spirit. For the kid, you know." "Kid?" he asked before pausing, as if he'd remembered something. The silence dragged, and as if in desperation, Mark burst out into laughter. "Don't you think it's time to give that up? Put out some candy, drop a pumpkin on your porch, and be done with it, Tef." Tef shrugged in response to Mark's snorting laugh, hearing but not caring about what the man had said. He held his smile carefully. It was as fragile as a newborn bird, and as easily broken. Mark's laughter subsided, and Tef could feel the sticky residue of derision left behind that the man's next words wallowed in. "You know you're only going to get about 3 kids, right?" "That's okay," Tef said, his voice soft and calm. "As long as the kids who come have fun, that's the important thing. And I know one kid will love it." "What if, instead, you came around for dinner with me and the missus?" The voice that reached Tef did so stuttering with hesitation. He'd heard it before. The faux offer of camaraderie followed by the slide back into predictable malice. He couldn't accept the insincere invitation anyway. Matt needed him at home. Tef couldn't leave his son, and as he promised years ago, he never would. Tef stayed silent, letting the extended stretch of awkwardness answer for him. "What if me and Jordo get dressed as princesses and knocked on your door? Would you give us some candy then?" The malice, right on cue. "Ha!" Tef gave a no-hearted laugh, and forced his mind away from the man beside him to the decorations that adorned his ramshackle house. The porch was a pile of rotted wood, held together by chipped paint and dust. The lawn was barren, and the concrete path that led to the front door was run through with cracks. But Tef didn't see the rundown house that the rest of the small town shook their heads at with pity. To him, it was a canvas, and over the past few days he had painted a masterpiece. The path was lined with cobwebs, designed to stick to shoes and drag behind them. The cracks were filled with eyes that glowed in the dark, and the stairs leading up to the porch had been broken and rebuilt to look like they would fall apart at the slightest touch, even though Tef could jump on them, and they wouldn't even creak. A breeze gusted, and the skeletons of roos, wombats, emus, and sheep rattled a death knell to the other wildlife in the sparse land surrounding the town. Tef stared at the swaying forms and lamented to himself about the scarcity of the animals surrounding his town now. He had hunted this year further than before, and came back with less. It's as if they already know what I'm out there to do. "Reckon, Jordo? Think we'll get past the spooky skeletons to the candy?" Alcohol-fueled laughter had joined Mark's smoky croak. Tef shuddered and forced himself to turn around. A shirtless man stood next to Mark. His stomach bulged, the skin stretched to bursting. Stretched marks adorned him like tiger stripes. Jordo slapped one hand on the firm fat while the other held a beer swatched between swollen fingers. "The spookiest thing is the creep giving candy to the kids," Jordo said, grasping at the lowest hanging fruit, the only kind he could reach without collapsing from the effort. Mark's laughter devolved into a coughing fit, and Jordo's self-satisfied chuckle pierced needles into Tef's skull. No, but really, Jordo said, recovering from his bout of cruelty and trying but failing to reach sincerity. Come around, Tef. We'll both have you. Drink some beers, watch the footy, avoid thinking for a night. We both know it's bad around this time of year. Mate, we're only making jokes to try and get you to laugh. We don't mean to be fuckheads. Jordo's offer and Mark's following apology drifted by Tef on the breeze. He looked at them for a moment longer before he shook his head. He couldn't go over to their places. Matt can't leave the house, and Tef needed to be with Matt. I'm going to head inside. Feel free to come around with your kids if they want some candy or to play. Matt could use some other kids for company. He'd been alone for so long now. He turned and missed the scrunched faces full of pity on the men behind him. Tef walked beside the path, careful not to disturb the cobwebs. He trudged up the stairs and brushed past the skeletons. The screen door creaked open on rusted hinges. Its fly screen flopped in the heat-blasted breeze. He walked through the threshold and was met by a wall of refrigerated air. His smile dropped from his face and shattered on the floor. Maskless, Tef stepped through the pieces, and they shredded his feet, leaking his soul onto the dusty floor. Through the hallway of his house, he walked with the gait of a dead man. Matt, it's almost time for Halloween. Are you dressed? His monotone voice echoed on the peeling wallpaper of the house. Tef's skin prickled in the cold as it adjusted to the frigid temperature of his home. Come on, Matt. There might even be other kids for you to play with tonight. Wouldn't you like that? Dust collected in piles on either side of the hallway, shifted only by the shuffling of dragging, hopeless feet. Teft walked past the kitchen and his nose twitched, his only reaction to the stench of rotting food and mold that wafted out of the room. His mind was elsewhere, with his son, and the excitement they shared every Halloween. His eyes crinkled and his lips twitched, but he couldn't gather all of the pieces of his smile. Tef approached the door to Matt's room. It was painted brilliantly. A bright sky blue that shone in the dull light filtering through the curtains that covered the only window in the hallway. Tef stared at the door and shook his head. He would need to put a new coat on the door. It was good, but not perfect. Matt needed everything to be perfect. The name Matt was printed in Technicolor upon the blue door. The childlike handwriting had been traced over again and again until it was grooves in the paint, carefully untouched by the countless coats that the door had been through. Freezing air rushed underneath the crack in the door. Tef paused, a hand pressed against the wood. He knocked. Matt, I'm going to come in, okay? Don't be rude. We're going to have such a great time tonight. He turned the handle and pushed into the Arctic climate of the room. The room itself was pristine. No toy was out of place. The floorboards were mopped and shining. The only light was emanating from the nightlight on the wall opposite the door. The windows were covered in foil and hidden behind heavy drapes. Matt sat on his bed. The covers were pulled over his lap, and his hands were placed on either side of his legs. The boy's head tilted away from Tef, as if he was shunning him. His skin was pale, arms bare, despite the freezing temperature of the room. I'm sorry, son. I know we had a fight, but you know there's nothing in the world I wouldn't do for you. I mean, you should see the house. It's incredible. I know you'll love it. Tef sat on the edge of his son's bed. The sheets were crisp, cool, and dry underneath his jeans. Son? Please look at me. Tef leaned over with his right arm extended. With a gasp, Tef placed delicate fingers on his son's frozen jaw and turned his head around until it faced him. Thank you, Matt. I knew you wouldn't be mad at your dad forever. We are going to have so much fun, son. Tef looked at his son, eyes wide and brimming with icy tears, his face a broken mask. Matt stared at his father, eyes wide and frozen in death, bearing a rictus smile. So that's the story.
I gotta say, I love Psycho. 100%. But no, I really, really like this story. Because even through the dialogue between him and his neighbors, there's this eerie feeling throughout. Like, they do such a great job at maintaining this tone through all of the different things, and especially when Tef goes into his own home and he's walking through that, and you get hints about the smell of this rotting food, and just throughout that the tension is growing so much because you know it's leading towards something, and it kind of builds this idea in your mind to where, is this where it's gonna go? I hope it doesn't go there.
Yeah,
because like, then, you know, it's gross having a frozen child corpse.
Yes. The idea that other kids are gonna play with him is even more scary.
And like,
why don't you come inside?
Yeah, play with my
son.
My son. He's frozen in the room, and I know when they were describing the door in such detail. Which, by the way, the imagery throughout is really great.
That's actually my favorite part of this piece is the descriptions are so grounding and so real. Like, I want to what's the thing that you were about to point out?
About the
door.
Yeah, about the door, but also the imagery. It does this thing to where it gives you just enough, but it doesn't beat you over the head with it.
Yeah,
like we stay on this door just long enough for us to see it, and then it opens. And I mean, as soon as Tef got to that door, my mind was going crazy. Like what's behind it? And if it was like a red herring, a freak out to where the boy is fine, but of course he isn't. Just, I don't know. I think it just did such a great job at setting up the steps and the pieces to this sort of escalation, and the payoff is just so well done. So to go back a bit, my favorite thing is for sure the grounded language and the sensory language. Like in the beginning, so after he hangs the skeleton, we're describing the heat as he looks at the skeletons and stuff. And we have this sweat beaded off his upper lip and dripped salt into his mouth. Tef licked his lip before he wiped his face with his hand. So the feeling of sweat dripping down your upper lip into your own mouth and then tasting the sweat is so viscerally I don't know if visceral is actually the right word for that, but it was very, I could feel it. I could imagine it exactly. Because that's happened to every human.
Right, the creeping moisture, and then that
saltiness.
Yeah. So that was really very, very evocative. And there's a lot of that, especially as we describe the heat. And so we get this really, really clear image that the outside is super hot and sweaty. And then when he opens the door, it's freezing in there. That's such a sharp contrast.
Yeah. And I know, the first time that I read it, I was confused, but I was using my Texan brain.
Yeah.
Because our Halloween is either rainy or really cold.
Right. For
some reason. But I guess in Australia, it's hot during the Halloween time, which kind of changes the entire...
Yeah.
At least my mental picture of Halloween to this totally different version of it. And I think, honestly, it works very well for this. I mean, as you said, it is the contrast of it being super scorching hot, it being super scorching hot outside, and the inside of the house being cold enough to preserve a boy's body.
Yeah. So for a couple of critiques, one of them is that when we get into the house, the contrast is not as I think what
it isn't spoken about.
It's not as capitalized as it could have been. I feel like when Tef enters the house, all of that sweat should be freezing cold.
Yeah,
and suddenly a shock of we've gone from the outside to the inside,
and then also that feeling of when sweat cools on your face, and you have that film.
Yes.
I feel since they did such a great job describing things throughout, I kind of felt that one aspect of sweating, but also just like the description was missing for me. But it's definitely like a small thing that doesn't need to be in there, but it would, for me, add some great flavor.
Yeah, no, like I really love this story. And it's just, there's the few things that can be improved upon, right? So even unedited pieces, of course, can go through more edits, right?
And, I feel on the same idea of like what could be changed. There was so much lead up in the beginning that I feel that the ending, though really good, really tight, was expedient because we got so much about what the outside looks like, and like how he's setting up, and we got this great this great picture of his like neighbors and the one very large one who's just holding his belly with a beer. I just love that I would have loved to be able to picture this house a lot more than what we were given. Like
on the inside, you mean?
Yeah.
Because the outside is pretty.
It is. But all I know about the inside is that there are cobwebs, there's dust, and it's cold and it's smelly, which is good. But I would love to see if the walls are made of wood. Are they like? I don't know.
I don't know about that part, but for me,
I feel it could because him going to his son's room, I feel should be a slow burn.
What it is for me is that I kind of knew where this was going really early on, and I knew basically as soon as he started talking to his neighbor about, I'm doing it for the kid. I knew the kid was dead, and I know that the kid's inside, right?
Well, then also I feel that it is allowing us to know that in a sense. At least that's because what I took from it is that the voice is self-aware and is kind of keying us into what is going to happen.
Yeah, well, my thing is that, the ending is not a reveal.
Yeah.
It's just a confirmation, and that makes it less impactful. It's I was still horrified by it, and I especially like how we start as we began with Tef reaching out with his arm, extending his arm, and with a gasp, turning... He hangs up a skeleton at the beginning, and then he turns his boy's head, which is another dead thing.
Yeah.
So I really like that. But it wasn't I wasn't surprised at all. It was okay, he's frozen there, like we thought. So
even with that, I still feel like this, of course, is a Do the Write Thing entry. So the first draft written in 30 minutes, and there's there's the whole process of going back to it and trying to edit it. But I still feel that as it was when it was first written to now, it's still a solid and
it's fantastic
and tight story to where yes, there are improvements that need to that can be made, but just know that you're in a good place.
Well, yeah, every no story is completely complete. You can look at a published work and actually a good editor would be able to find something that we could probably have improved that, but eventually you just got to present it. But so there's no shame at all in the Doof the Write Thing entries aren't the final product either.
Of course.
Anyway, my point being is that this is a wonderful entry, and I really enjoyed it. And those were just some things that could continue to be altered upon.
Exactly. So, either way,
I think so.
Okay. Either way, thank you very much, Generous Gnat, for that entry first and foremost, and also for taking us on a really nice Psycho-esque ride.
Yeah, I especially like actually at the end the crisp, cool sheets. It just kind of felt right.
Yeah. Also,
honestly,
when I read that, I felt it.
Yes.
Because nothing is better than a cold bed.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Except it's actually it should not be that cold because there's a boy in it. The boy is not alive.
Frozen boy,
yes.
Which. When I read that, so I read it, loved it. And then afterwards, I was thinking about it too much. I was like, you can't get a house that cold. I don't think you can freeze a whole house.
I don't know. I just wonder how he does it. Did he buy 5 fridges and leave all the doors open?
Or did he just does he just have the craziest electricity bill?
I don't think you could do that with a freezer either, because a freezer...
it won't cool a house.
No, because a refrigerator, actually, I'm pretty sure it leaks heat into, it takes the heat out from within the fridge and puts it out. So you can't do it with fridges. So it'll have to be...
It'll make the place hotter.
It would bounce out, I think.
Yeah. And then also, I mean, you could open up all the doors, but still,
Well, what I'm
it
saying
wouldn't make that big of a difference.
is because the back of the fridge, like it radiates heat. Actually, like there's a thing.
Yeah, because it has like a motor and all.
Yeah, basically the motor. Basically, this isn't actually how. This is
Because we are fridge experts.
Well, it takes the heat out of the box and put it outside. So you'd have to have a tube running all of the heat from
outside.
Yeah. Anyway, this is random. I was just wondering. I think also a detail would be interesting to see is how Matt died and when. Did he die on Halloween?
That's what I'm getting.
Or just that Halloween is just a special day.
Special day, yeah. And then also, you don't even need, a whole scene with that. You can just describe Matt a little bit more, because I know that Matt is pale and he is frozen.
Yeah. But is he still in his costume? Yeah.
Is he still in his costume? What's the color of his hair? Are there signs of a struggle? These are certain things that could be added to the end that could give a more satisfying ending.
Yeah, actually, what I think is just the ending lacks the surprise. The ending is how endings should be surprising but inevitable. This is just inevitable. So we just need to add a surprise, and the surprise could be, the father killed his son because his son was growing up and wanted to leave or something, or whatever it is.
And then also they spoke of this fight, which
yes.
When I read that, I wanted to know more about that, because it seems like whatever that fight was, which I'm getting, they probably had a verbal fight, and maybe the dad hit him, and then his head hit a corner or something like that.
Yeah.
But I would love to figure out more about this fight and how it links into the death of his son and why this Halloween is so important.
Yeah, maybe the son didn't want to do Halloween this year.
Oh yeah. What if his son actually hated Halloween?
Yeah, or he just wanted to go to a friend's house and just hang out instead of doing Halloween.
But then dad couldn't let go.
Yes. Had to do the murder.
Had to kill his son.
Yeah. So they're just ideas. I mean, those aren't really oh, you should do this, generous now.
Yeah, it's spitballing.
And the thing is, I really like thinking about, the story has sparked things that I like thinking about. So I think that's part of the enjoyment, too.
Exactly. So thank you for inspiring us in some sense.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next story, because they all are close to their 2,000 word limit. Yeah. And, we would like to talk about these forever. As we said, and then we went back into talking about it. Thank you so much for submitting that to the contest, Generous Gnat. We really appreciate it, and thank you for letting us read it. Okay, so the next story. We haven't actually picked it.
Flip a coin.
We should flip a coin. So we have The Man in the Moon by Calnero985, and then we have Fear by Kippos, or Kippos21. The Man in the Moon has a face. It's heads.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Fear.
Tails.
You put your tail between your legs, so it's gonna be tails.
Yes.
So let's flip a coin. Google, flip a coin.
Bink.
Tails. All right. So we're gonna read Kippos' story first.
All right.
Okay. So I'm gonna say trigger warning for body dysphoria. That's the word. Dysmorphia is when you're actually wrong about your body. Dysphoria is when you are correct about your body, basically. That's how I understand it anyway. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start, and also various violent imagery as well. So this story is called Fear, and it's by Kippos. She walks past me in the crowd, another anonymous face without a name amongst the hundreds. A momentary flash of beauty cutting a sharp path through the mundanity of the crowd of humanity surrounding us. Emotion rips through my heart and soul, a hot flash that overwhelms me for moments, battering past defenses and conjuring tears to spring in my eyes. In the flush of the feeling, it becomes nigh impossible to place a label on the emotion. Anger? No. I hold no ill will towards her. Lust? It's closer, but there's no burning need thrumming through me. Something akin to desire? In a sense, yes. In reality, it's closest to a feeling of jealousy. The flames of it scorching through my mind before cooling and being replaced. Less intense, but no less strong for that. The feeling twists and transforms, becoming a soft, sad form of envy, mixed with an overwhelming despondency. I have to take a moment to ask myself, who is she? What thoughts plague her mind? What are her worries and fears? But this knowledge is not privy to me. All I know is that she is beautiful. So fucking beautiful, it hurts. It hurts so much I need the hurt to be made physical. An overwhelming need to drag my nails through the meat of my face, push my fingers into my eyes, digging through the fluid to hold the optical nerve, rip it free, snap the cord, free myself from having to feel this ever again. There are moments through the pain where I hate. I hate that she gets to be her, and I have to be him. The hate can't just flow into her, it consumes me as well, because it's so fucking unfair. It's so horrible of me to feel that way toward her, a person just trying to live. Always, though, the hate will fade. It isn't me. The pain, though? The pain lingers on. Putting this to page, thinking about an interaction that happens over and over, moments threaded through my life, brings the pain flooding back into me, overwhelming. And I can't hold back. The tears spring forth, carving furrows down my cheeks. I must ask myself, where does it stem from? Some say I'm cursed or delusional, but these do not define a beginning. Is it in my nature? An inviolable truth about myself? A truth that would be expressed within me regardless of circumstance? Is it perhaps nurture? The unique flow of the universe that has propelled me toward feeling this way, and any slight perturbation of me could have never felt these feelings? I ask these questions, but field no answers. Regardless of nature, nurture, or anything in between, the shape of my life has flowed until now, leaving me here. Here where I stand upon a ledge, behind me, being him, and I cannot go back. In front of me, the abyss, the unknown, an eternity of torment, perhaps? Or could it be salvation? As much as the fear consumes me, stains my soul as I lie awake, worrying, shaking and terrified as I imagine how people might react, about how they'll treat me, I must step over the ledge. Going forward, taking the step over the ledge, dropping into the darkness of the abyss, it means being her. And to be her, I'd give anything I have to give. As the darkness whips around me and the fear of being reviled and ostracized overwhelms me, I'm desperate to know. How do I finally rid myself of this pain? How do I become who I wish I was? How can I know if what I'm doing is the right thing to do? If I could lay out the uncountable paths of my life, track every branching choice, would I take this path? Would I step over the ledge? Questions consume me in the moments between the emotions. Is this the best path for my life? Am I minimizing the harm I do, maximizing the joy I spread? Is my life just compounding mistakes? Would doing nothing be the mistake? Would trying and failing to be him just destroy me further? I have no answers to my questions, and it cuts to my core. How do I stop this pain? How? How? I don't know what to do. I don't know how to stop the pain, how to get through this without becoming a hollow shell of a thing. In all of this, the one thing I can hope is that I can work toward being that person who I wish I was. Someone that can look at a beautiful person and not feel that moment of hate. Maybe I can become beautiful. Be someone that the me of now would treasure. Be someone who would fill the me of now with rolling waves of envy and misery. At the end of it all, however, if I can be her, then I walk my path of pain and fear, and I'll spend every waking minute waiting for it to feel real. Okay, so that was Kippos' story. I got a little emotional reading it. It's...
I mean, it's a strong story. Very strong.
I'm going to talk to Kippos before we post this, just to make sure that everything's okay with posting this. But for context, in case you didn't pick it up, Kippos is trans, right? And this is her emotions, dealing with... I don't want to just... It's not just body dysphoria. It's gender dysphoria, right? Obviously. This feels a very heartfelt, like, nonfiction essay, basically, about her feelings. And it was really intense. And it feels really true. And it's also, what I think is so powerful about it is that it's admitting, it's not just like lamenting the pain. It's also, feeling bad about yourself for having a unhealthy, unhappy emotion, like the hate for someone else that's not deserved. And so I think it takes, a lot of courage to face that part of yourself and be okay with it. So.
Definitely. And I think one of the biggest reasons why it's so impactful is because of how willing and raw it really is. It is willing to let us dive in deep into this person's head, into this very vulnerable place, and it doesn't pull the punches.
Yeah,
and I really love it for that, because we're just along this train of thoughts, and there's never that moment when the train really stops.
Yeah,
and the train just keeps going, and it gets faster and faster. So we are right there with them, going through these thoughts, and we're feeling that anxiety. We are feeling a portion of that emotion that they're trying to describe. And I don't know, like, this does such a great job at pulling you in and keeping you there throughout the entire read.
Yeah. I don't even know where exactly to go. That it's stream of consciousness, right? I'm trying to remember reading the story originally, how much it might have changed, because I think we might have talked about it at that time too.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, but it was definitely very different at that time.
Well, I feel, because what I remember from what it used to be is that it first and foremost didn't go as deep into the emotion as this one. So I feel that in the revising of it, they let themselves be vulnerable on the page, and along with that, the first one was definitely talking about the exact same situation, but I feel that the first one spent a lot more time in the tangible world, in the present, and not so much diving in as deeply as this one did into the mental turmoil that this character is facing. And I think deciding to go there is what definitely brought this entire piece up a notch.
Yeah. It feels a little wrong to critique, something so personal like this, but just in the favor of, like, if this was an essay to be published somewhere, there's some things that can be added to. Just one is when Kippa starts talking about the abyss ahead. I wasn't quite sure at the beginning what that was. I picked up afterwards that it's supposed to be, transitioning and accepting, that part of yourself. But I felt that just a little bit more clarity could be that it's not, when stuff like the abyss, images like that and darkness show up, we think of that usually as, like oblivion and like killing yourself. And so, and so there was a little, I was like, no, don't go to the abyss, but actually going into the unknown is probably, it is a good thing. Yeah. So, just a little, like a sentence of setting that up that this is actually change or something like that.
And also, I think something that could really benefit in this story is more specificity. I do love where it sits, but if there were moments where we were either keyed back into the tangible world, or at least I don't know, some more details for us to really latch on to throughout.
Yeah, I wonder if this could be fictionalized a little bit more, or just to place it within a scene. Like a lot of great nonfiction, what they do is they have a scene, they set the situation, and then they go into all of the emotions, and then they finish off with an ending to the scene that is affected by all the thoughts that have happened in the middle.
Exactly.
So, just as an example, and Kepos' lived experience probably will inform better scenes than whatever I suggest. But maybe we set up a scene of like, hey, we see an actual specific woman, right? We describe her, like, we can actually like see her in a specific place, in a coffee shop or whatever.
Yes.
And this sparks the hatred, and we see all of these emotions, all of this going all the way through. And we finish off with this wonderful catharsis isn't quite the right word, but this acceptance of hope, right? And then we go back into the coffee shop or wherever we are, and one character smiles and they can be friends. Yeah. The hate is over, or whatever.
Or like whatever ending is desired for this story. But yeah, it is very true. What you're saying is that if all of this greatness that is being displayed and described and explained, if that can be grounded in a place, in a scene, or just in some details, it would make it that much more impactful, and it would just kind of give it a stronger sense of, yes, it is raw, but it's also polished.
Sure, yeah. Of like, of just
or
giving...
I guess it's more of like a typical... I don't know how to explain it, but do you...
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying of like this, putting it in a grounded reality so that it's not just a stream of consciousness, it's a stream in a place.
Mm-hmm. Purpose.
That said, I love this ending so much. We've gone through all these negative emotions of like, even though the main character is accepting this, going forward into the unknown of not having to be him anymore, of being her, of maybe being her one day. And there's a lot of pain, and it's very uncertain. The future is a void. It's scary. We still have the hope that things will be okay. And we'll get through all the pain and the fear. And we'll be able to be her one day, and it'll feel real. Mm-hmm. So I thought that moment of hope was really intense, and I mean, it had me cheering too. Yeah. So, yeah. I thought it was a very satisfying conclusion to all this uncertainty, all these questions being answered. Basically saying, we don't know the answers, we don't know how to stop the pain, but we'll get there one day. Yeah. Or even through all of that, we'll get closer to what we really want.
And I really love that, like, very real look at hope. Mm-hmm. How it's not this all encompassing positivity. It is, you're in this bad place, but there's always the after. Yeah. And I don't know, I just really love what the story is doing. Yeah,
and it's interesting because it's not like, I don't get a description of like a light in the dark where like you can see it and you're getting closer. It's just somewhere along this path there might be an ending. Yeah. I don't know how many more ways I can say that this felt really. This was very emotional, very like tied to the character. Another thing I could focus on that we could focus on is the imagery of the self-harm is really, it's extremely violent and visceral and feeling like I've definitely I haven't felt this kind of wanting to self-harm in this way like from the same source, but I've definitely felt the same kind of things of wanting to destroy yourself physically even though you can't, Yeah. Like it's not really physically possible to carve furrows into your cheeks with your fingers and stuff like that. Yeah, but it feels like it should. Yeah. Because you want to externalize this mental anguish. So I found that extremely real. So
yeah, very, very.
I love the questions. I love the uncertainty and how it guides our thoughts, and we can kind of answer some of them ourselves or just accept that there's not an answer for some of them. I thought it was a really natural way to progress and to make us wonder as well. So.
Exactly. And I think on that, something that is apparent in this story that I don't really see in a lot of other kind of stream of consciousness story is that progression. Right, because in a lot of things that I've read similar to it, they'll stay wrapped up in this one idea and they'll just simply phrase it multiple ways, but it's still the same basis. But with this, it seems like, as we said, we are moving through these thoughts in a great pace, in a great way that also tells you so much more about this character and about what they're feeling, and it's ultimately leaves in a place that, of course, isn't like the happily ever after that we're used to, but it's a place that we're very comfortable with.
Yeah.
Or at least
we're more comfortable with. We can accept this place.
Yeah.
So this is a really, really brilliant and affecting story, and I'm really glad it got submitted, and I'm really glad it got voted up.
Exactly. So thank you very much.
And congrats on the first place.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna go to the next story. But of course, thank you so much, Kippos. Thank you for bearing your soul, and if you say yes to letting us post this reading and our discussion of it, thank you so much for doing that. And because I know that's really hard to put such an emotional part of yourself out in the world.
Something so personal.
Yeah, of course. And that's really brave. And Do the Right Thing supports you.
You get a Right Thing gold star.
It feels like demeaning for some reason.
Does it?
Yeah. I feel like our rewards are not worth that much. You get $80. That's a real reward. You're gonna get $80 or whatever.
You get our bottomless love and support from Do the Right Thing. Along with the gold star. Picture hearts and stars
being shot out of our eyes and mouths.
Yeah. Like we're monsters.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next story. Mm-hmm. So the next story is Calinero 985's. It's called The Man in the Moon, I think.
Yeah. Which I'm pretty sure it.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it is not this, but that is a very good Kid Cudi reference.
Oh, I don't. It's called Man in the Moon. No, this story. And we discussed this on a previous episode. I remember this.
Yes, we have.
And we really liked it, and so I'm glad that they chose this one to redo. Yeah. Okay, so let's just get into it.
Yeah.
Man in the Moon by Calinero 985. Jenny went to the lake on the night of the full moon, as she had done twice before. The first night she had come to bathe, wearing rough clothes dirtied from working her farm. The second time she had come ready, dressed in her finest Sunday dress, face clean that morning at the well in town. Tonight, she had come plain, laden with purpose. She stood at the edge of the water and looked at the sky. The moon shone down on the lake, a beam piercing the darkness. As Jenny watched, the beam widened and grew stronger until it was solid enough to reach out and touch. Then, he came striding down. He was beautiful. He was so handsome, so achingly perfect, it was almost painful to see. His hair was white, and he wore a robe of mist woven together with strands of starlight. Leaping to the ground, he took both of her hands in his, smile beaming from ear to ear. He gave a sweeping bow and kissed each of her hands before looking up at her with smoldering eyes. If any of the boys in town had tried to bow like that, Jenny would have laughed herself sick. When it was him, it was hard for her to breathe. It was hard for her to breathe. "Beautiful Jennifer," he whispered. His hands were cool to the touch. All of him was cool, Jenny knew, but pleasantly so. Touching him was like being immersed in an icy pond, and being with him had been like... She stopped herself, cut off the train of thought. It was easy to be swept up by his charms, but tonight she was weighed down, tethered to the earth. She could not fly with him tonight. "You grow more beautiful every time I see you," he said, rising to his feet and stepping closer to her, cradling her in his arms. "Your eyes are filled with the fire of the day. Your hair is as black as the night sky. The sun itself only pretends at your glory. Let me be the stars against your sky, the moon pressed—" "Stop," she said, though she did not pull away from him. He stopped speaking at once and leaned back slightly. His perfect face, framed by his long silver-white hair, gazed through her curiously. "What is it? This is our third meeting, Jennifer. Our third and last, and we should enjoy—" "I'm with child." He stopped completely and stumbled a step back. The look of surprise, of shock, that flitted across his face was the most human expression she had seen from him. It made her want to laugh, even as her stomach churned. "With child?" He seemed at a loss for words before straightening himself. "My child?" "Of course," she said, face red. "You know I've no husband, no man in town. Only you. Only twice." This... He ran his hands through his silver hair, refocusing on her. "You bear a child unto the Fae. This is the rarest of gifts, one I never would have dreamed." "A gift?" Jenny laughed bitterly. "A child out of wedlock in a town of God-fearing folk? A mouth to feed, with my parents drowned and no siblings to help me work the land? No father to raise him?" She locked her eyes on him. She locked eyes with him, her man in the moon, and he looked away. "I am what I am," he said quietly. "It is my nature. I am not bound to the earth. 3 nights, as I told you the night we met." "Your nature?" Jenny grimaced. "I've heard that before." "You have met another Fae." His head rose. "There are so few of us left." "Not a Fae, just another man." She shook her head. "You can speak of your nature all you like, but you made the choice to come down to me. I didn't make you." She turned away from him for the first time, taking a step beyond his luminous presence. She traced the shoreline of the lake with her feet, the water rippling around her shoes. He stood in the sand, moonbeam behind him, watching her silently. "I don't blame you," she said, staring out over the water. "You didn't make me either. I saw you, and I wanted you, and I can't regret that." She smiled sadly. "But I have to live with it. 2 nights of magic with you, 2 months waiting for the next. But the rest of the time, I live down here, in a land I wasn't born in. A farm of crops I can't keep alive, a village of people who don't know me. I don't get to run away. I have to reap what I've sown. And I suppose you don't." There was a long silence, broken only by the lapping of the water. "If you wish, I can take the child." His voice was low, but earnest. "It will be happy. Grow up among wonders you can only—" "No," she said, shaking her head. "No. This baby is mine, and I'll raise it. I won't live my life wondering what happened. I'll raise them, love them, and I'll do the best I can. I didn't come here for you to make this go away, only to tell you, because it's right for you to know. And to hurt you," Jenny sighed. "I'll admit to that much sin. If you're going to leave me and this babe, you'll at least have to hurt for it." The sand crunched behind her. Jenny turned to see that the man had followed her from the moonbeam and knelt at her feet. He reached out his hand, holding it in the air for her. She followed his lead this time, placing her own in it. Leaning forward, his lips barely brushed her knuckles 3 times. "It is my nature to live above the world," he said. But as the anger flashed in her eyes, he went on. "But it is also my nature to pay my debts, in threes. 3 gifts I will give you, before this moon is new. Gifts for you and the babe. To help in what way I can." "I should tell you to go to hell with your gifts," Jenny whispered. "But the babe will want. I will too, damn it all." He rose and strode back toward the moonbeam. Before ascending once more to the sky, he turned back to look at her. Seeing her furious gaze, his head lowered in shame. The man rose back to the moon, and clouds darkened the sky, hiding his face. Once Jenny had made her way back through the woods, back to her small cabin and wilting crops, she allowed herself to weep. She wept in sorrow and anger, and knew it was only for tonight. One night for herself to wallow. After that, there was work to be done. The first of her gifts came the very next morning. When she rose up to do the dawn chores, she saw that her field was full of green life. The wilt and pests and husks that had withered in the drought were gone, replaced with green leaves and strong roots. She walked the lengths of her land, and all the way to the edges of her property, the crops were coming in stronger than she had ever seen. If they stayed this fruitful until harvest, she would have an excellent year. Maybe even have enough to sell to one of the merchants headed to the city, earning money to save for leaner times. If they stayed this bountiful for a few more seasons, she could buy her own livestock. There was still work to be done. She set herself to watering her new crop, making sure the gift did not go to waste. The second gift did not come for another week. The moon was half empty in the sky, though Jenny couldn't bear to look at it. As she went walking around her farm, chopping with her father's axe at tree limbs that had grown too close, she saw a puddle where there had been none before. A puddle from no rain. She spent the rest of the afternoon examining it and speaking with the men in town. It was a spring, perfect for a well, tumbling up from some hidden water below. She'd have to put in some work to dig it, but she could afford to hire the men to help her if she needed to. When it was done, she'd no longer have to carry heavy buckets from the well in town back to her house many times a day. In fact, some of her neighbors might start coming to her. There was still work to be done. Jenny set about digging the well. She let the men from town help her. Though she wasn't showing it yet, she had started to feel her condition. It wouldn't be long before it was obvious, and after that, she wasn't sure she could count on them doing anything for her, no matter how much she had to offer them. Another week passed. The crops grew healthy, the well was dug, and the moon continued to shrink in the sky. Finally, it dwindled into nothing at all. For the first time in a month, she could look at the sky without wanting to cry. The next morning, Jenny rose and walked her farm. She tended her crops, she pulled water from the well, and she waited for something to happen. The sun rose, then fell. But she saw and heard nothing. When she went to sleep that night, the disappointment she felt was only a small ember. There was too much to do. The next day, Jenny's shovel broke, and she went into town to have it fixed by the blacksmith. As she stood outside his shop, looking for somewhere to sit after her long walk, she saw a man standing across the street. He wasn't beautiful. He was handsome, with gray hair and features fair enough to draw a few eyes in the sleepy town, but he wasn't beautiful anymore. He wore ordinary clothes, rumpled with travel. He looked no older than she, but with faint lines at the corners of his eyes that hadn't been there before. It was him, her man, but on the dirty street instead of floating on moonlight. He crossed to her, stepping through a puddle and muddying his shoes. "Your third gift, if you will have it," he said, giving a small flourish and an abashed smile. It was an elegant bow she had remembered, but it somehow still fit, even here. "Tardy, with apologies. I'm not used to traveling this way." She laughed and embraced him, ignoring the looks from those walking by. He was warm now, and she reveled in it. What happened to your nature? She asked, breaking off. I am the moon, he said, smiling. More than anything, it is my nature to change. He went home with her that day, and if the people in town wondered that the new moon never seemed to wax as full again, they didn't hear. There was still work to be done, but they could do it together.
Wow, that was a really awesome storybook-esque tale. I really, really loved it. I remember reading this story previously on Do the Write Thing, and I could tell a lot of the improvements just honestly came with prose and being able to take their time and explain this. Excuse me, and explain this full story. And again, I feel that the best part about it is the voice. How it is this very storytelling-esque voice, but it's also able just to give us these details and take us on this journey to where, as we always say, the ending is surprising but inevitable. And I really loved it.
Yeah, this is... I just have so many notifications and they're scaring me. Yeah, so this is obviously extremely beautiful, extremely poignant. It feels out of a fairy tale, right? I love that it questions some of the tropes of old things, but also delivers on them. A lot of these things that we're saying is going to be a lot similar to what we said the first time that it was on, because the plot, the story is the same.
In fact, the only thing that is different is just a lot of the prose.
Yeah,
how they're fine-tuned.
I think, what's great about it is that, like, originally, like, I mean, we praised it back then too, because I think that what the story is wonderful. I feel like nothing much has to change. The story arc is great. Yeah. It's the wonderful play on the 3 gifts, on the 3 nights, and things like that. I think in a lot of in fairy tales, like, this would happen, but it would just be slightly different. Yeah. I think in an older, I wouldn't see the Fae becoming human in an old, like, grim fairy tale. Like, I would see her going up to the stars or whatever, or taking the child or whatever. But I don't think in an old fairy tale the Fae would come down and become human. So I think that's a great subversion of, like, hey, the beautiful thing, sometimes, it has to get dirty. Yeah. To do the right thing. It's terrible. Stop. It's cue music. Yeah, so I think it's really poignant, and I can believe this romance. Jenny is hardworking, or Jennifer, as he calls her, and he's wonderful. He's his nature is beautiful, but, like, he does the right thing. It's great.
And as you said before, of course, I really like the setting in this. How it is this, a farm life, but it also has certain parts in fantasy, but it doesn't do too much. Like, even if it is set in a world that is fantastic, it's so grounded. Yeah. To where, of course, the events of it aren't realistic, but for me, I still have that, like, that hope of love. Yeah. Yeah. And it just burns inside me.
What I think is interesting is that this feels American West for some reason to me, very strongly, even though it fits, like, there's nothing in it actually pointing to the American West. Yeah. Like, this is something that would happen in any medieval town. But for some reason, just that there's a drought, the crops are dry. This is a young woman on her own, and she talks with a little bit of an accent, which I think is written that way. Like, it wasn't just me doing it for fun. Like it felt natural. It feels American West. And I think that's just evocative. Like, it might be her accent is, like, slightly American Southern a little bit. And that's where my picturing of it comes in. But yeah, my point is that I could very much see the setting.
Oh yeah, I mean this could definitely take place in like El Paso.
Sure, maybe a little bit less sandy.
A little bit less sandy, so like
I think Kansas.
Sandy? Kansas?
Yes.
Kansas City. Oh, it could be Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Sure. I don't know anything about it. But yeah, so this very beautiful language. I'll pull out some lines because of course there's so many really great ones.
Exactly.
What one in particular that I really like when it comes into the man and the moon and stuff, when he goes back up to the moon, it has a line, "The man rose back to the moon and clouds darkened the sky, hiding his face." And so, I mean, I love that play on words there of like, he is the moon and clouds are literally covering his face in shame.
Yeah.
Not really a play on words. It's literally what's happening, but I don't know. It felt clever.
This is wonderfully put.
Yeah. The pacing of this is like nice and slow, and of course you have these wonderful 3 beats. Twice getting subverted the first time. It's supposed to be 3 nights of love, and then of course she's the one who subverts it. It says, "No, this can't be because I'm making a choice here."
She's preggo.
And then we have the 3 gifts, and it's actually a little bit subverted because the 3rd gift doesn't come in time.
Mm-hmm. Comes a day late.
Yeah, it comes a day late.
And $1 short. It's a phrase.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And now it just needs one more 3 beat to create a 9 beat. Three 3 beats.
Oh wow.
That's what you need.
That's a lot of days.
Yeah. So for something that can be improved upon, I think there could have been a little bit more with the town. That's my one thing.
Honestly, I was gonna say the like same thing, because for the town to be the setting of this ending, and just to also get a feel as to more of the setting that like where she is living in and where this is happening, would have been wonderful if the town were to be described more beyond just sleepy. Even though that like the phrasing of that is very telling. But I would have loved to get more specificity.
Yeah, the one thing is that I think I remember in the original one, or maybe this is just me adding extra stuff, is that the town like didn't really like her until she got her man, basically, or something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm just making that up. But anyway, my point there is just that like I think there could have been a little bit of stuff with the town, you know. She's in a place that she doesn't know. She doesn't know anyone there. They're not really talking to her that much. And then she's about to have a child out of wedlock. And, you know, she feels a little ostracized and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I think just adding a little bit more in that might have helped. I mean, one potential ending to this is that when he comes, the town doesn't like necessarily want to talk to her more, but like now she doesn't care because now she's with someone.
Yeah.
Just an idea.
And also, like, giving us more information about the town could key us into a lot more of her character, in a sense, and how she is reacting to these things, and it can give us a chance to get even deeper into her head and, like, where she sits. But either way, it is a fantastic story. It gives me such this warm, fuzzy feeling when I read it. And for that, I would have to say thank you very much.
For some reason, the way you said that was really funny to me. This is beautiful is the right word. It's poignant. It's got a nice rhythm to it, I feel. There wasn't any... I love the pacing of it. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about it, is that it just feels like a natural progression. I like how in the beginning we kind of have like a record scratch when she says stop and that she's pregnant.
You made me wondering how I got here.
Yeah, actually, like in an old fairy tale, I think she wouldn't have found out that she was pregnant until after the 3rd night, basically.
Oh,
yeah, and she definitely would have confronted, like, yeah,
like, hey, I'm pregnant.
I think in an old fairy tale it would be like, on the 3rd night, he promises her 3 gifts, and then she gets the crops, the well, and then she gets a baby. Mm-hmm. That would be the
last
third
one's
thing.
a baby?
Yeah, or something like that. But anyway, yeah. So I really like this, and yeah. So to transition to just to quickly talking about all three stories. Congratulations, Generous Gnat, Kippos, and Calanero. You guys did fantastic, and of course, congratulations to everyone else who submitted as well. Exactly. Remember, we had like a 6-way tie for the actual third place. Yeah. So I thought that was fun, and I'm really excited for the next contest, which will start up in about a month. Is that right?
Roughly a month, yeah. So please get those pins ready and stay tuned because
actually, I think we'll be announcing it next week. It feels right. Jesus, that's so fast.
It is fast because we're finishing this go up and we have the next one. But honestly, I enjoy how often we plan on doing it because I don't know, it's just a whole nother avenue to get people to not only write, but also look over their own work and like look into their own craft beyond the 30 minutes that we normally give them.
Right. And also, stuff's gonna happen later this year regarding contests and stories and Do the Right Thing. So just keep an eye on the Patreon rewards. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just to talk about the three in general, and what the process, what rewriting the Do the Right Things did. I was really, really happy with all the stories that we got. I think it's funny how, I don't know if it's funny. I would like to observe that we have a negative ending or like a non-happy ending, right? The son's dead.
Yeah. And then a okay ending.
And an okay ending where it's like things are not good now, but we have hope. And then the third one is just good and pleasant and wonderful. So
the third one is a happily ever after.
Yes. So I don't know. I just thought that was fun.
We got the full range, and we also got something that's deep and personal and very poignant. Then we also we got something that's deep, personal, and poignant. And then we got something that's a little bit more mystical, and fantastical. And then we got something just downright nerve crawling.
Yes. So. So these were wonderful, and I'm really, really excited to see what people come up with next time. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
So I think this is the perfect time to transition into our regularly scheduled programs of the submitted stories for this week.
Yeah. So of course we're always going to continue the actual Do the Right Thing process, even if like one day we just have to skip an episode. I think I could probably still like just do the listener section or something like that. Yeah. Like, this is the important part where you guys get encouraged to continue doing your thing. So
exactly,
I'm really happy about that. So the stories that we're going to read this week, we're only going to read 5 as usual, because unfortunately we don't have time to talk about all of them. The ones this week are
Ace of Sword, Kyrgyzstan, Wild Bow, Ka Subalu V2, and Dravonio.
That's right. So, of course, every single time that you do the right thing, your chance of getting selected for this goes up. So if you weren't selected this week, don't worry. Next time, you have double the chance. Exactly. Actually, that's not true, but just more chance.
Yeah. Positive chance.
Yeah. Plus percentage. And if you haven't read these stories, please go pause this right now and then go read them, because we're going to spoil them heavily, and they are definitely worth reading without any spoilers.
100%.
So without further ado, let's talk about
Kyrgyzstan with an abundance of prudence.
So I'm pretty sure this is Pact fanfiction. Like this
is it?
It fits exactly. More or less exactly in Pact.
Wait, what's a Pact?
Pact, the Wild Bow story.
Who?
Oh my god. So anyway, I thought that this was very interesting. I don't know if it actually is Pact fan fiction, but
it could fit.
It fits basically exactly.
Yeah.
So basically we have this character, Tad, who looks both ways before crossing the street and walking into the Feywilds. And then we have this other character, our viewpoint character, making fun of Tad for being so careful when he's entering a super dangerous place. Mm-hmm. And then we have, and this is a delightful character voice, their first line after being told to shut up is, "As my master commands, I'll shut up, clam it, put a sock in it, shut my pie hole, zip my lips, hold my tongue, and other such synonymy, while some pixie or other feasts on your tongue while you watch." So it's just a fun little, like he's definitely going over the top. We could sense the antagonism between these two characters. And then the main character literally zips their lips shut using magic to look like they're actually fusing their mouth together. So we go on, and basically our main character, which is named Jorah, is a fae and was caught by Tad. But Tad and normally likes becoming mortal and becoming a familiar, which is what's going on here. But Tad is just so boring. They're basically just like an accountant, and they just want to slowly get rich. Like they don't even want to like do something extreme and like rob someone or something. They just want to slowly get rich. And this is torture for Jorah because it's just not entertaining anymore. And literally would prefer Jorah just getting eaten, or Tad getting eaten by a Venus flytrap. So yeah, we get this whole dynamic through this little bit. We really enjoy the characters, and I thought it was delightful.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's just so fun.
Yeah,
and I think that's why I love it so much. It's fun. It's comical, and it's set in this like magical world, which I really like seeing that aspect of a world with magic. And above all else, the voice is just so strong throughout.
Yes, and it goes into the to the narration really well as well.
Exactly,
there's a nice fusion between the two.
Yeah, and I think like I could read a whole novel like this, right? Because it's just, I don't know, like as I read it, I had such a smile on my face through and through, and not only was the description solid and were the characters very poignant, but the dialogue seemed to have so much care put into it, and I really loved it. Yeah,
I really love the ending, which ends with Tad sucked. 0 out of 10 would not ensnare into Fae bargains again, which I thought was so wonderful. And the thing is, this is delightfully ironic, is that Jorah like actually like he killed his last master basically, and like spread him across the school campus in gore basically, or something like that. And so it's like you kind of are getting your just desserts, Jorah. Like this is actually like it's torture for this Fae, but like this Fae has definitely tortured people before, and I thought that was like a wonderful irony where we're like empathizing with him. We're like, yes, this is super boring. Tad really cares about his IRA, which is a tax thing, and just like it's like really embarrassing almost. I'm like, oh my god, why are you taking such pride in taxes? We're totally like Jorah is getting pain, but like they definitely deserve it. But also it's like, oh my god, please do something more interesting, Tad. I thought that was great. Anyway, so I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, so thank you very much.
All right, the next story we're going to talk about is by Ace of Sword.
Ace of Sword. And the title is Circling Back.
Yes. So this is the second story in a series, and we read the first one with this Mage Eye kind of detective story. Previously on, what happened was there was a murder using some small magic, basically, and none of the big wizards understood how it worked because it didn't look like it was magic. But basically, pressure had built up in a bottle and then exploded, and it killed some people. And so this Magi has gone to his old mentor. We're actually in the mentor's perspective. And we learn a little bit more about the world. Apparently, wizards can sharpen one aspect of themselves when they become like full wizards or something like that. And that's what makes that Magi so interesting, is that they intentionally chose to sharpen their sight rather than their mind, which is why they're a Magi and they can see everything. And it's interesting because it's like, that's definitely like shooting yourself in the foot, because your mind is so important. However, clearly like they're getting a lot of benefits out of this.
It's choosing to focus on one certain skill.
Yeah, and it's actually what ends up saving them, basically. Yeah, or it's what's going to let them solve this case. And so we have we learn some more about the mentor. They talk to each other about the case. And then the Magi leaves, and I know I'm not remembering the names exactly, just to avoid confusion. And we have the mentor thinking about the problem, and we learn a bit more. We realize that actually this isn't as simple as when you cast a simple spell. When you cast boil water onto water and put in a trap vessel, it'll create enough pressure to explode. That's actually not true.
Yeah, because it'll stay at that temperature.
Yeah, so this is actually more interesting. This is more complex than just like, oh, this was a simple spell, like we originally thought as readers with an understanding of physics. And so just as we're starting to learn more about this mystery, the mentor dies on their way to bed because they've been assassinated by the same killer, most likely, who I think we're supposed to understand this killer did a small fire and then the person died of monoxide poisoning.
Which is so clever.
Yeah. Or carbon monoxide poisoning. Yeah, it's really, it's very interesting, really unexpected.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
so
I think, honestly, the best, like, my favorite part is the world building. Going from the last one to this one, you get to find out so much more, not only about this magic system, but its limitations and the characters. And like, I don't know, this seems like the building blocks to such a rich world.
Yes.
And I am excited not only to read this next entry, but to see where it goes from here.
Yes.
Because it's the perfect mixture. Well, it's a perfect mix of that whodunit.
Yes.
Plus kind of like these noir-esque tones that I love. And of course, classic magic and fantasy. It's this perfect mix in this world. That's fantastic.
My one critique is that the flame and that aspect of the assassination is kind of unexpected and not foreseen. Yeah. And so we start off a little confused as we're like, why is this main character passing out here? And then we get seen the flame, and I just would like to have like a little bit more foreshadowing.
Well, also I just feel if that scene was longer and like drawn out, then I don't know. I think it would just sit better on my palate, because I would love to hear like the creaking of the floor and like a distant fire. Is a light. I don't know.
Or just like earlier on, as soon as it makes sense in the story to mention, that it like the air feels a little bit different, or that it's harder to breathe, or that it's hotter, or just something. Yeah. Just to. And the other thing is that I didn't know where the fire was. Because it says a fire winks out, basically, I'm pretty sure. But otherwise, I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm really looking forward to more entries in this series. This is very fun.
Exactly. So thank you very much, Ace of Sword.
Okay, the next one is by Dravonio, and this is called Blood and Oranges.
Blood and Oranges.
So this story has a character named Curtis waking up in a little. I was picturing like a not a World War, a Civil War like tent. I don't think it's supposed to be specifically, but that's what I was picturing.
I just saw like a tent, yeah.
So
of some sort.
an army an army medical tent. So I was picturing like American Civil War, like pretty not before the modern era, but after guns, but I have no idea if that's accurate. And I'm pretty sure there's like melee fights happen. Yeah. Like this character took out a bunch of the bad guys. Anyway, it doesn't really matter.
Could have been with a bayonet.
Yeah, that's what I was figuring, kind of. But it doesn't really matter what specifically happened. What matters is that Curtis is in the bed, and we have this I actually love this interaction between him and the medic, where he's like understanding that the medic has to rush, and the medic is like just calmly explaining things. Like actually like really got attached to both of their characters, even though the medic is not named. Yeah. And Curtis is barely talking like at all. And he's just like trying to tough it out for the medic's sake. But the Curtis sees this woman in the tent. She's peeling this orange with a knife. Her dress is really interesting. I love the imagery of it, where the top of it has lots of like dead and desiccating imagery of like plants, withered plants, and barren dying flowers and barren branches. But then as it goes down, it turns into blooming flowers and fruits and like just lively things. And I was picturing that, and it was very vivid in my mind. He smells blood and oranges, and all of that was super vivid. Like I could see the color as she stands, and I could smell it, and I could
blood
feel it,
orange, yeah.
like the citrus with copper.
Yeah.
She takes out a knife and stabs one of the other dying people around, and he dies. And everyone ignores her. And it's very, very quickly we understand that she's basically a Reaper. Fulfilling that trope, but she's different. I've never seen a Reaper
lively
who peels oranges. Actually, it's important to note she offers a slice of orange to the dying man, and he doesn't take it for whatever reason before she ends his life.
Yeah.
So then Curtis passes out, and then we cut to her being above her, and she explains that I can keep you alive, but you'll have to do a favor for me. Is what the understanding is. Mm-hmm. And it's not like an evil bargain. We are frightened of her because she's clearly something of power, and she could end him, and he can do anything about it. Mm-hmm. But we also don't think that she's evil. We don't think that she's a demon, a devil. She's just like offering a genuine thing of like, you are strong, but you're gonna die if you don't take my offer. And he takes the orange slice, and it just tastes like normal orange. Mm-hmm. And we don't get to see what the favor is going to be. We just end, but we know that there's going to be stuff in the future. And we're very interested in it.
Whenever you do a favor for death, there's always unforeseen consequences.
Yes, of course.
But overall, I think I absolutely loved just the little pieces of the world building that were happening. Specifically, I think one thing that really like stood out to me was death's dress, or the woman's dress, and like a lot of the great details that are being shown in this piece. And honestly, if there is ever a like part 2 to this, I'm looking super forward to it.
I love this is such a great use of one of this week's words.
Orange.
Yes. Did we even say that? Did we say the right words at the beginning? Okay. Yes. Okay. And I thought it was just I've never seen this image before of death with fruits, and specific, like if I have, it was apples. Mm-hmm. It's
always an apple.
I think an orange is a really big contrast to that, and I actually would love to see more of a world where oranges and citrus fruits in general are like the symbol of life. Yeah, like that's very interesting.
Because also when you like eat an orange, you feel very lively.
Yeah, it kind of is. It's very strange, like how much that fits and how not normal it is.
Yeah, because now that I'm thinking about it, an orange,
like it's full of juice,
represents life a lot more than an apple.
I don't know. It's very strange how much it feels natural. So
I'm going to think on this.
Yeah, so just that alone is worthy of it. One small critique is that when he eats the slice of orange, I actually would have loved for a physical description of what it tastes like, even if it just tastes like a normal orange. Like
I wanted to get the like pop of the like orange peel.
I would have loved to feel he bites into it and it tastes like there's some sweetness to it, a little bit of bitterness, and it's like a sharp like a burst of flavor and watery, and it feels good, but also it does taste exactly like a normal orange and nothing's weird about it. Yeah. So I would have loved to like hear that description and like feel like the life in it, and then just get told to us it's normal. It's not weird. It is
a orange, nothing different.
Instead of just being told that it's normal. I think that would have really, I don't know, it would have done something.
Yeah, because also that is the ending point of this of the story, and I feel like by doing that, it'll feel like the landing was stuck even better than it already is.
Yeah. So so I really, really enjoyed this. So thank you for sending this intro, Vony. It was great.
Thank you.
The next one is going to be by...
The next one is Kasubalu V2 with Fruit Thief.
This is another really, really great entry. I really, really enjoyed this one. I read this one and the last one in that order as well, and it was really cool just seeing these two great stories. And how fruit's being used. So basically we have Alice. She's holding out this orange to a patchwork shadow in the parking lot behind the bank, and the shadow doesn't take the fruit. And we very quickly come to understand that this patchwork of shadow is this sort of demonic creature, and she's made a deal with it to bring something to it, and it won't take the fruit. because it didn't ask for this kind of fruit. It asked for a stolen fruit, and she just got one that we assume she paid for, and she's lying about it. And so she's terrified by this. It admonishes her, and we're very scared by it. Like, we totally understand it could eat her or something.
Yeah.
It could do something bad if it wanted to.
It's this otherworldly being.
So she runs off, and she goes to a market store, and she's basically having a panic attack. She's gonna have to steal something. It's making her steal, and we're like, why does it want her to steal? Why is that the important thing?
Yeah.
And my initial thought was, oh, it wants to like corrupt her, and this is like one step towards her becoming more evil, because she's a good girl who wouldn't steal. But she grabs one of the a bergamot. So she grabs this fruit. It's called a bergamot. And we're like, oh, is that a fantasy thing? Or I feel like I've heard that before, so we're not quite sure what's going on. And she grabs it, and there's so much attention specifically focused on her not wanting to steal. It's this red herring that works really well. We're like, oh no, she's sacrificing this part of herself. She's stealing. She's going to get caught. Something horrible is going to happen. But no, she steals it, and she walks out, and she actually gets away with it. And she goes to the shadow thing, and she gives it the fruit, and it says it's going to give her what she asked for, what the bargain, the little favor. And all through this, I forgot to mention, is this cloth imagery. This creature is like a cloth demon, is what we kind of sort of understand. And
demon
it actually,
of cloth.
It is like, that sounds silly to say, but it actually is really terrifying, because it's this imagery of needles and puncturing and softness and the feeling of cloth. It like obscures the texture of whatever's underneath. And we also, like with the needles especially, like I could feel like just trigger warning for I cringe whenever I think of this, but like a needle like puncturing your eardrum. That's what I was imagining. Yeah. Anyway, so Alice, as part of the bargain, gets a bunch of ideas of what clothes she can make. It's like she gets supernatural ability to make beautiful clothing, and she can feel it, she can imagine it, she can almost taste it, right? Yeah. But in the bargain, she goes back to the market, and there are no bergamots or whatever they're pronounced. And then we realize that they're gone. This fruit that was something kind of like an orange, but not an orange, is gone from the world. She sacrificed it to this demon, and we're like, oh fuck, I don't know what a bergamot tastes like. I don't know what that is.
Do you know why?
Because she fed it to this demon.
Sacrificed it.
So I thought that was a really, really powerful reveal. Really, really good.
Definitely.
And we end on this line that combines these two wonderful things: the twist and the cloth imagery. The place in her memory that should have had it, the bergamots, was cottony and soft and almost covered up. I was like, oh fuck,
yeah, so good.
The demon won. Jesus.
And honestly, I really love this story, and not only for the prose and the detail, but just how it is organized throughout. It's very spread out, and like
it takes its time.
Yeah, and it takes its time in this way that is the perfect pacing for the story, and the description of this demon just it really gets me. I just love it. So
yeah, and there's some other I really love the thematic idea of like doing a crime, right, is a public. It does damage to the public. Yeah. And this is literalized in that
it's doing huge damage.
Yeah, it's literally deleted something good from the world because you hurt society. Yeah.
But hey, she got powers now.
Yeah, she got powers. So some things from Kasubalu in a comment to their own story. So apparently bergamots are a real thing. They're like akin to oranges, but apparently you're not supposed to eat them. They're made for Earl Grey tea. So that's how you get Earl Grey flavor, is from bergamots. So that's where they balance, like, oh, that sounds real, and maybe I've had it before, but I've never eaten it. So that's where that comes in. And so they've actually written about this monster a couple times before, and they link the stories. I think we've talked about one, but yeah. So I if you like this, I would recommend go reading the other ones.
Yeah, please do.
So as part of a criticism, and a couple of other people in the comments also agreed, so there's a couple of lines with dialogue that the story plays with dialogue and description, where sometimes they'll be in quotes and sometimes they won't. And in the beginning, I was a little confused because there's actually like 4 lines in a row from the monster, but because they're separated by line breaks, I thought that Alice was speaking.
Yeah, I also thought it was a back and forth, but at the same time, I can tell that they speak very different.
Yeah, no, it does something for the story where like we have pauses in between each of its lines as it emphasizes, and we can feel it. And like some people in the I think Wildbow and someone else in the comments also mentioned that just like having a dialogue tag for at the very least for the first 2 in a row would have helped. That way we could know that this is breaking convention. Where it has, "Do you think I would not know, little Alice? Did you think you could cheat?" And that doesn't have quotation marks, but I like it because it breaks that. "Me of my humble request." So that's just a thing that's pretty easy to fix. Yeah. And I would, but I really like how it plays with it. So,
So thank you so much for submitting this wonderful story that makes me want to have cloth powers.
Yes.
So the next story up is by Wildbow with OBSR.
Yes.
Obsur.
So to summarize the story, I'm always excited whenever Wildbow sends in a story, obviously.
Very much.
For the very obvious reasons. So this story starts off with one character, the main character, confronting Sarah because they've been really weird in that they have gotten all these gifts recently. They're dressing much nicer, like very, very fancy, and like rich, expensive clothing. And so their main character is wondering how the hell can she afford these things. And so Sarah describes how she's not shoplifting, she's not selling drugs. Her dad actually, who we kind of understand is like a long lost or so, like he's been out of her life for a while, and he wants to reconnect after he had to stay in the hospital. He went to the hospital, then he never came home. We had an exchange, a difficult one, and then she shows our main character her phone, and so we're establishing this email thing, and so in her email she asked for something for her birthday, except she there's multiple requests for her birthday, but they're all on different days. Yeah. So like already we know that it's not actually for her birthday, and she just requests some clothing and usually has like a link for what it is. And then there's a reply, and it's very robotic. It's request obtained. A boon of a cardigan befitting a fetching offspring is always the reply. It's super, super weird. Yeah. We're like, has he been like corrupted by like an alien? Is this a robot? What is going on? And so the main character thinks this is super weird. But we have this dialogue, and you know, of course, they feel like very real people. Sarah is also hugely naive. She feels like a teenage girl that doesn't know what the hell's going on. She's like, oh, fun, new clothes, and this is weird, but it's worth it. Yeah. I'm getting more attention now. I'm becoming popular. And then we found out that Sarah is actually like, over time, the requests get weirder, or not the requests, the gifts get weirder. She gets what she wanted, but there's like blood on them, and she feels that she can't. Or there's a spot of blood, and so we're like, where the hell did the blood come from? Yeah. Obviously, and so what I started guessing was that these have been stolen from people. Yeah, and
they're other people's clothes.
They're other people's clothes, and they were obtained like violently. And so Sarah wants to refuse the request, but she feels that she can't, and that, I mean, clearly this is her father is like violent, and so Office she doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel like she can't. And so it gets more and more extreme. That instigating factor for that scene is that she gets a ring with a real $10,000 sapphire, and we're like, oh my god, how could he? Where did he get this? Yeah, he clearly stole it, right? So she like goes to the police, but the police don't do anything at all. And then the next scene, Sarah or the main character goes to Sarah's house and goes to her room and finds Sarah wearing a wire around her neck.
Barbed wire.
Yeah, and she is bleeding, and we're like, oh my god, is she like killing herself? This is horrifying. We're like, oh my god, someone's got to stop this. And Sarah explains that she asked for a choker and didn't explain what it was, and so her father sent her a wire, and she felt that she couldn't resist for whatever reason. And we're terrified. Oh my god, this is already so horrifying and violent and terrifying.
It caused permanent damage.
Yeah, and so finally she goes to the police, so she continues to request things because they haven't found her father, and she stopped telling the police about it as well because it's so much of a hassle every time, and so she just tries to request small things now. So she just like requested like a charm bracelet, except there's blood on it. So we're like, God, a little girl was probably murdered for this.
Yeah, but she has it now. So
yeah. So it gets worse, and then finally we have one cut where Sarah goes up to our main character and apologizes, and the main character is super confused as to why that is, but we're terrified, like, oh god, what's happened? And then a blur of orange jumps down on her. We understand it's like in a prison suit, right? And then we get to our last scene where Sarah and our main character are like tied together in a room. We're like, Jesus fuck, of course it goes to here. Yeah. We see the father, David, just like doing work, and he's like covered in blood and wearing the same orange jumpsuit that he was in. If we were like, oh god, this is a horrifying scene, we see the killer, and Sarah pulls out her phone. We have hope. Oh, she can call for help. But no, there's no service, of course. And she shows what her last email was, which was her saying, stop sending me gifts. I want you to disappear. Get out of my life. Let me spend every day with my one remaining friend instead of going back and forth to hospitals or police stations. Grant that. And of course he replies, quoting, let me spend every day with my one remaining friend. Request obtained. A boon of an eternal companion, befitting a fetching offspring. And so we understand, oh god, this main character is going to get tied up with her friend for the rest of their lives. Yeah. It's horrifying.
Or sewn together.
And of course, we get it, and it's the monkey's paw. She got her wish, but not at all the way that she wanted it. It's, oh god.
Honestly, this story is such a lesson in, like, building tension. Yeah. Because from the very beginning, we start off in this place where it's odd, but okay.
It's definitely, like, off. We're like, this is weird.
Yeah, but I will go with it, right? And then it builds. And then you're like, oh, there's blood on them. Okay, something's up. And then it shocked me to the core when she walked in on her friend with the barbed wire around that. And like such a jump, but it's like, okay, now we're here, right? And then it just keeps building. And then it turns into Saw at the very end. Yes. And I just... like, this story did not go anywhere where I thought it was. I was completely surprised through and through, but I'm so thankful that I read it.
Yeah. I like how in the very... like, we're off foot on the very beginning, just because the very first line is, hey, Sarah, are you dealing drugs or something? Yeah. We're like, oh my god, this is a confrontation. Yeah. And the characters are confused, and, like, we go from this high, like, oh, drugs... and then we go back and we're like, oh, they're actual best friends, and she's just wearing weird clothes. So we're like, we start off in this very weird place from the get-go. So yeah, I thought that was really good. For a little of a critique, I was confused on like why exactly Sarah felt that she had to be wearing the clothes. Like I could imagine reasons, but I just wasn't sure. It's like, does she know that she's being watched? Yeah. Like, especially when it gets into the violent one that actually hurts. I was like...
I mean, on the same token, I wasn't sure if there was some sort of mystical part happening, because, like, she wrapped that barbed wire around her neck and was just going for it. Well, Then again, I don't know. Maybe it's playing on the idea of like this expensive gift.
I think for me, it would have worked if she just like had to send a picture.
Yeah.
And he was just demanding a picture, like not even making threats. We don't have to. We can imagine he's the just the idea is threatening enough, right? The only thing is that just like why, like how did she know that he was going to know that she didn't wear it, right? What happened the first time she didn't wear it?
Well, also I think, yeah, and those are key points. I think it's playing into that fear that is building in her. So I feel that if there had been a moment when that fear was portrayed stronger, right?
Yeah.
Then we can get a better understanding as to why she would put herself through this pain because of this overcoming fear of her father.
Yeah. Did the first time she didn't wear it, did like her cat disappear?
Yeah.
You know?
Like, well, you know.
Something like that. Yeah, but obviously that's pretty small in this really terrifying, spooky, gross story.
Quite gross.
Yeah, and it's like, God damn it, Sarah, you fucking moron! Like, why would you? Oh, God, it makes us really hate her. Like we're with the narrator, with the main character, and like, oh my God, this girl can't take care of herself.
But at the same time, even though we arguably don't like her, it's still so horrifying and sad.
Yes.
What ends up happening to her, and I mean that's just effective writing for you, through and through.
Yeah. God damn it! When she starts requesting like charm bracelets, why can't the father just like go to the dollar store and get
buy one?
Oh God!
It's like, oh, I need to find a tiny girl, kill her for it.
Yes.
Rob her for a charm bracelet.
Yes. Oh God, horrible. Yeah. So obviously, great story.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Wildbow.
I don't know if enjoying it is the right word, but I
This has given me a lot of ideas.
No, I mean, like, I did enjoy it, but, like, it definitely made me uncomfortable. It wasn't happy feelings, which is the point, anyway. I don't know what else to say other than, I'm glad that I read it.
Yeah. So, as we do every time, let's go ahead and thank every single last person that submitted. Without y'all doing y'all's thing, there would be no us. We would cease to exist in the continuum of reality.
That's right. So thank you so much to Kippos21.
Thank you, Kyrgyzstan.
Thank you, Ace of Sword.
Thank you, Ghost Pac-Man 4.
Thank you, Dravonio.
Thank you, Glittering Coast.
Thank you, Lucasop86.
Thank you, Stuck in Reddit Factory.
And Glittering Coast, I'm certain is a new submitter. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And I really liked your stories. And hopefully yours gets selected next week. I'm excited. Thank you, Sarah Penguin.
Thank you, Generous Gnat.
Thank you, Kausubalu V2.
Thank you, Wildbow.
Thank you, Mizey1.
Thank you, No Goodbye.
And thank you, Bisexual Punch Party.
Yes, and also we're going to take a little moment to thank everyone who commented.
Yeah, and actually wrote them down, so I'm not scrolling through it for the first time. Thanks to Kyrgyzstan, Kippos, Ghost Pac-Man, Sarah Penguin, Glittering Coast, Dravonio, Kausubalu, Lucasop, Generous Gnat, Stuck in Reddit Factory, Wildbow, and Ace of Sword for leaving their comments and helping discussion. You guys are awesome. Keep up with the great work. I'm also going to, again, give a shout out to Kippos for the Habitica Do the Right Thing challenge, because they... also, as part of the challenge is to leave a comment, and I'm sure that contributed for some people. Everywhere where people left comments, there was a back and forth, people discovering things about their writing. It was awesome. So,
so thank you everyone that submitted. Thank you everyone that commented. All of y'all's work is making this work even more worth it.
Yeah.
So real quick.
If you want to be like the wonderful people who submitted and wrote stories, you can go to //dotherightthing.com. And you can do the challenge by setting a timer for 30 minutes and writing a story that includes 3 of the 4 random words that we're going to announce at the end of this podcast.
And on the idea of those words, if you want to get the most time possible, I'm talking a full week, right? That means you want to see the words as soon as they come out. And the best way to do that is to go to our Twitter, which is @WriteThingCast.
That's right. And starting next week, I'll have them scheduled, so it'll actually come out on time. Even though I said that, I would do that last week. the words are intended to come out every Friday, and they'll also be posted on the subreddit as well. So check those places every Friday to find out what the week's words are before the episode comes out.
Yeah.
And of course, for episodes coming out, subscribe to us on whatever your podcast catcher is.
Yeah, and please, if you can, leave a review.
Yes, you could be the very first one.
Yeah, please.
Okay, what's going on in Doof?
What's going on in Doof?
So, of course, pretty soon, actually, in 20 days, is All Packed Up, the 24-hour live stream by our Aussie boys doing Deep Impact. So, even if you haven't read Pact yet, I think it'd be worth checking out.
Yeah, and also, we will be on there.
Yes, we're going to be on there. We're going to do a special Do the Right Thing episode, actually. We'll announce it when that week comes by, but basically, we'll all be writing Pact fanfiction.
Yeah.
And so, listeners, you guys can write it, or you don't have to. It's whatever you guys like. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and there's going to be a lot of... You guys should... The schedule for it, I believe, has been posted on Doof Media, yes. So you guys can check out the awesome stuff that's going on the whole time. And, of course, we have that new podcast to join the network. I'm really excited about it.
Very much so.
We Want More, the Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality Analysis podcast with Steven Zuber and Brian. I don't remember your last name, but they do a great job. I just caught up. I've really enjoyed it, and it's enhancing my memory of Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality. So
solid.
And of course, last thing plug is Kingslingers is of course going on, analyzing the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. So if you haven't joined that yet, please consider blocking out a bit of time, start reading Stephen King's, and start catching up to that awesome podcast. And then, of course, you can help us out by becoming a patron at Doof Media or patreon.com. Patreon/doofmedia.com, something like that. You can pledge $1 a month or whatever else you can afford to get some awesome Patreon rewards. At the what's the level? What we need to plug?
$10.
So at the $10 level, you'll be part of the Doof Troop. Which, according to our text on the site, is a cool gang where dogs act silly and talk to each other, and they also wear sunglasses. So at this level, you get access to writing by us doofers, so you would have first access to the Christmas writing that we did recently.
12 Days of Doofmas.
The 12 Days of Doofmas, and also I'm pretty sure... Scott has been doing a monthly journal of all the media he's read, watched, and played that month. There's also some other stuff that might be accessible to other levels. I know that Ruben recently did an impromptu game jam session where he created a game and announced it on the Discord and did that for a couple hours. So some really cool stuff. And of course, at the Wonder level, you join the Discord, which is arguably the best reward. You get to join all of us in this wonderful chat. Where I'm on there for far too long. So
and I'm never on there.
That's right. But other people are as well. Okay, so let's close off this long episode with what are the words for next week?
The words for next week are flee, certain, squirrel, and one.
Okay, so
flee as in run away, certain as in it's gonna happen, squirrel as in the animal, and one as in the number.
That's right. Or when one does something.
Yes, or another term for I.
Yeah, basically. Okay, so what's your story, Jarvis?
Flee, fly, flew, flung. I am certain that the bell has rung because 2, 3, 1, 4 is when the squirrel runs out the door.
Is that already all of them?
Yes.
Wow, that was quick. It's a good story.
Thank you.
When one is certain that a squirrel is about to cross the road as you're driving, one must swerve uncontrollably and slam into a bystander on the sidewalk. When one has confirmed that death is certain of this bystander, one needs to flee the scene. It is simply the right thing to do, and that is why this one is not guilty.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is probably the most important point of this podcast, is that squirrel lives matter.
Human lives don't.
Human lives don't, and preserving the life of a squirrel is just doing the right thing.
Bye. Okay. That's the end, I guess.
Yeah, sure.